The Roman invasion of Britain by the order of the Emperor Claudius in 43 AD was the trigger for some of the most bitter fighting these islands have ever witnessed. The very freedom of the native Britons was at stake, and like any proud people before or since, they would not part with their liberty without a fight to the death. The northern borders of the Roman Empire were witness to scenes of frenzied preparation. The Emperor Claudius, in the second year of his reign, had decreed that the tribes of Britain should feel the might of Rome.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you this. Salve, citizens. My name is Lucius Varenus, and I am the first centurion of the 2nd Legion Augusta, based at Dover at Chester. I'll be talking to you today about the Roman army and what we're doing here. And I'd appreciate silence until the end. I'm not used to being spoken back to, and you will feel the point of my sword. We came to Britain in 50 AD. Now, a lot of you Britons seem to think that we actually invaded. This is not true. We were invited. Unfortunately, the people that invited us happened to flash their gold and their silver and their valuables, and then we decided to stay. So we've been here now for 100 years, and we're gradually moving up the country. We've encamped ourselves at Dover in Chester, and we're moving west into Wales. And the majority of the reason why we're moving west into Wales is because of your natural deposits of things like copper and especially gold. We have two types of clients. We have those that welcome us, and we have those that don't. So today, I've brought my equipment with me that I was going to battle with, and I will carry. I have my sword with me and my shield and a spear. I'm wearing full battle armour, and I'm also wearing Roman military sandals. So I'm going to be passing these around if you want to look. Just be careful of the edges of some of them. They're not sharp, but they are quite pointy. So, just a little bit about how I joined the Legion. People seem to think that people were conscripted or press-ganged into the Legion. This is not true. To join the Roman Legion, you had to be a citizen. You also need a reference from a magistrate, and then you go for a test at your chosen Legion headquarters, and they decide whether or not they want you. So we're the first fully fledged paid army of professional soldiers. I'm expected not to marry. I'm expected to serve for 25 years if I live that long. And at the end of my service of 25 years, I get a pension of 14 years and a plot of land to set up on. But in order to do that, I have to obey every instruction that's given to me without question. So, in my legion, the 2nd Augusta, there are 6,000 men divided into 10 cohorts. There's also a second unit called auxiliary, which if you're not a citizen or you're a criminal or you're a slave, you're allowed to join. But you really are battle fodder and thrown into the worst situations first. So in total we have 12,000 men at Chester, soon to be joined by 2nd Legion. They're the 2nd Legion Beatrix. Unfortunately, they've just been mauled down in the south of Britain, and they're changing their motto to "Don't mention Boudica," because she's just given them a severe kicking. So my job as centurion is to manage 100 men. I manage every aspect of their daily lives, from what they do all day, to their orders, to what they do at night, and their punishments as well. I carry a blind stick, which I administer instruction with, called Vetus. And my nickname in the Legion that I manage is "Get me another one," because usually one beating isn't enough. So I'll tell you a little bit about what I'm wearing. The armour was developed by the Roman army over several hundred years, and is made of bands of segments, so it's flexible and moves. And it's called Lorica segmentata, and it looks very much like a lobster. So in this armour I can bend, I can run, I can dig, which I spend most of my time doing, and I can fight. And I can march, on average, 40 miles a day in 12 hours with a full kit. It weighs about 12 pounds. And as a Roman soldier, I'm expected to buy my own equipment, and this will take about half my pay. So if I'm going to know that I'm going to wear it into battle, I'm going to make sure that I buy good gear, the best, absolutely the best. So the first and most important piece of equipment outside the armour is a short stabbing sword, which originally comes from Spain, and it was such a good idea that we pinched it. And it's called a gladius. And rather than a short slashing weapon, it's designed to stab forward, and only stab forward. Because we fight in tight formation, there's no room to swing things. So it's designed literally as a stabbing motion. And the phrase, "the quickest way to a man's heart is through his stomach," is not, as people think, an instruction for would-be brides to capture a man. It's actually from a Roman army training manual on how to use a gladius, and that you stab upwards through the stomach into the heart. So I'll pass this around, just because I say be careful of the edges of the tip, because it is quite sharp. The second piece of equipment I brought with me is my shield. This is really important. It's made of plywood, and it's made of laminate. So it has one sheet one way, the next sheet is another way, and it's built up in layers with plywood and glue with a leather front, and it has a metal edge to it. Weighs about 4 pounds. It covers most of my body, and is curved around at the top. The shield is not only just for defence, it's also for attack. The way we fight in the Roman army is the first line of troops are experienced troops. And what they will do, as you come charging forward, is punch you in the face with the shields and knock you to the ground. The next line behind me will then finish you off. And the third line behind them will go through your pockets. So the scutum is made of wood. It usually lasts for about one battle. You can buy second-hand ones, but I don't recommend it. And you would be expected to replace it. And there is a parade every day, and your equipment's checked. And if your equipment's not up to standard, then you're in for punishment. Without a doubt. So you'll see many similarities for those of you that have served to your own experiences in the forces. And we invented it. Most of the things that you do, we invented. So if anybody wants to come and have a look at this and have a feel of it, I'll leave it here.
Leave that.
The third item is a Roman spear. Now this is called a pilum, and it's an iron tip about 2 foot long with a wooden shaft. And it's a very soft iron. And on average, a good Roman soldier can hurl this about 15 to 20 yards, and they would be thrown in a volley. The tip itself, actually, when it hits the ground or hits the shield, it bends. So it can't be thrown back, and if it sticks in your shield, it renders your shield useless. So the first thing in a Roman attack is a volley of pilum. So anybody in the opposition that's got a shield will have to discard it, because having 2 of these stuck into it, it's no good to you anymore. And all of a sudden you're defenceless, and then you're dead. So the pilum's here. The one thing about the pilum I would point out as well, if you're on the end of one, is that it's absolutely useless for everything else. No good for anything else at all. And the poor Roman soldier that's just had to march 40 miles with this over his shoulder is more than happy to throw it at you, just to get rid of it. So on a march, I would be expected to carry 2 of these and use them under instruction. Josephus was a Jewish general in the Roman army, and he talked about the Roman army and said that it was so well drilled in exercises that battles were just merely exercises with a lot of extra blood. And so the Roman army would practice and practice and practice with these weapons every day. And the practice ones were often false ones, and they were twice as heavy. So by the time you got to use the real thing, it felt like nothing. So on average, if you weren't digging, then you were practicing the weapon or marching. So I'll leave the pilum here. The tip is very sharp. So if you want to come up and have a feel of it and have a look at it, please do. But I won't pass it around because it is quite sharp. So, something that you may be interested to know is that as centurion, I've recently been taken out of the battle formations because I've just had an eye operation to remove cataracts. And they were removed by the Roman medicus, and I was treated to take out the cataracts with poppy juice to kill the pain, which is opium, and honey was rubbed into the wounds afterwards, which is an antibiotic. And we have the finest medical kind of care of any army in history, and it's not equalled until the late 1900s. In fact, a lot of the surgical procedures for amputating limbs on the Battle of the Somme were actually Roman techniques. And from removing projectiles, again, were Roman techniques. So, I'll read out some of the list of punishments that I hand out. Minor punishments, castigato. This can be usually be a minor infringement. Your armour isn't shiny enough, you're not marching fast enough. I've hit you and you don't feel the pain anymore. So castigato can be a deduction of pay. It can be a humiliation, which my tunic is above the knee, and it's only Roman soldiers that are allowed to wear a tunic above the knee. It's considered a great dishonour in Roman society to wear your tunic above the knee. But Roman soldiers wear a belt above the knee. And the biggest shame I can lash out to any soldier that is not obeying orders is to get him to remove his belt and stand on guard with his tunic below his knees. And all his comrades will know that he's a complete idiot. And he will be castigated for probably a year.
It's nice to do that, isn't it?
As we get into the major punishments,
supposed to do that sometimes, isn't it?
Militaire
It's the other
mutato
way it's going.
would be a severe loss of
Think about
pay.
somebody else.
And as well as paying your general pay every day, you're also paid into a pension fund. So that when you finish your service, you have a pot of money. If the Legion makes any money out of rape and pillage, then that is all put into a pot and divided equally amongst everybody. And you can lose those privileges, and it can be a huge amount of money. So people lose that with a great deal of payment. Very serious punishments would be frustorium, and that's held in front of a military tribunal, and that would be for something like falling asleep on guard duty. And if the enemy's in the field and you fall asleep on guard duty, the penalty is death. And what would happen is the soldier would be brought before a tribune and myself, the facts would be heard, and if he was found guilty of falling asleep, and especially operations, I would tap him on the shoulder with the Vitas, with the Biden stick, and step back, and then his colleagues and the regiment would beat it to death, because he's put them at risk, and they would do it roundly. So that's a very severe punishment. The final punishment is usually issued by the generals and the emperor. If they felt that you hadn't fought hard enough, or you'd suffered a dishonour, like losing your standard or losing the eagle, or you'd given up ground when you didn't need to, then there's a word which you'll be familiar with, because lots of these words have been passed down, called decimation. And decimation means that either your cohort or your legion, every man in 10 will be picked out and clubbed to death. And that is the Legion punishment for failure. So you have good reason to fight hard. There's other words that still linger from Roman times. The word ambidextrous. Dexter is right-handed in Latin. So ambidextrous means of two right hands. And to be left-handed, the gladius, the sword, is always worn on the right-hand side. And to wear it on the left-hand side was punishable by beating. But there was also a Roman word for it. And the Roman word for wearing your sword on the wrong side is sinister. So that gives you some idea of the type of things we're kind of getting up to here. If you'd like to come and have a look at the equipment, please do. Come and have a feel and have a try on if you want. Just be careful with some of the points you're saying. And any questions?
Could I congratulate as you've proved yourself to be a good, worthy legion, because you've had a hell of a lot of opposition from the other end of the field, but you've risen above it. That phelan, or
Peeler?
yeah, a phelan. You could carry two, you say.
Yeah.
But
You'd be required.
are there any reserved arms in the rear to cover? Because once you've done it, you're knackered, aren't you?
Yeah, by the second volley, everybody else would be dead.
You reckon?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're
Without a doubt.
That was out of supreme confidence.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Have all these roads that you built?
How many? What, the roads?
The roads.
The roads are primarily designed to move soldiers around quickly. And in the total state over 400 years in Roman rule in Britain, we built 4,000 miles of road, which is the equivalent to the modern motorway system. And it was the job of the army to build roads. And if it was quiet and there wasn't enough fighting to do, then the army would be put to making roads. But digging is a big part of Roman tradition in the army. As well as marching 40 miles in a day, in 12 hours, at the end of the day, you would make a marching camp. And around the camp, you would dig a ditch 10 foot deep and 8 foot wide. And on top of that, you would pile the soil to make a bank, and then put palisades around that. So that would take you most of the night just to do that, just to protect yourself. But that was the rule, that at the end of every march, every day, you built a marching camp and took it down the next day and filled the ditch in.
Is the real reason the Romans invaded the country for its mineral wealth? Is that the real reason?
It is, yeah. It was basically
the tin in Cornwall, or
the
the
tin-
gold and silver gold in Wales?
tin in Cornwall, the fighting dogs. Britain was famous for its dogs and its fighting dogs. For manpower, for the empire, and the empire in 100 AD is twice the size of the European Union. And the electricity supply is basically slaves that run everything.
So the
Yeah.
Romans then took from this country minerals, slaves and dogs. Is that fair to say?
It would be yeah, in that order. Yeah, yeah, yeah. 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 One of the centurions in the Second Legion Augusta, when he retired, took 100 Welsh women slaves to Rome and couldn't get rid of them because they were too gobby.
Are you sure they were Welsh?